What we're seeing in the UK market and amongst our customers are two things that are really shaping the savings market. And the first is rates. So your traditional banks and your challenger banks are setting really competitive rates, and that drives consumer behaviour. Banks want to attract customers, and customers want to make the right decisions with their money. And a lot of customers have good relationships with their banks, so making that decision whether to switch or stay with their existing provider can be quite challenging. And we're almost spoilt for choice with all the offers that are out there in the market, which takes us to the second thing, which you can probably guess, and that's your digital experience. And that's where I think the real competition is really emerging, because it's up to the banks to create that seamless digital experience, that reliable experience. Customers feel like they can own and manage their money. They want visibility of how their money is growing and optimizing. Where the opportunity sits is with the bank. It's for them to bring these two things together and create a compelling savings proposition with the right user interface and digital experience that makes the customer feel that they're in safe hands and that their money is growing, and then they also have visibility of it. From my experience, what I'm seeing with my customers, the banks that are winning or are going to win aren't the ones just with the best rates. It's the ones that make you feel like doing the right thing with your money is effortless. No one's going into a branch anymore. We're all looking at digital experiences. And for the banks, that experience needs to be seamless from the front end, and also the core engine that's behind that. That core engine behind that needs to be reliable, it needs to be scalable, it needs to grow as the customer demands grow and scale as the market changes.
The sort of origins of Spring are embedded in Paragon's history. We've been offering savings for more than 10 years now, so we had a lot of experience in the savings market, did pretty well through our existing franchises. We're one of the fastest growing savings banks in the UK. What really changed in 2022 was interest rates increased. The amount of money that people were missing out on by not moving their savings changed a lot. We saw a bit of a step up in terms of people moving their savings around, but not to the scale that really should have been, to make sure that everyone was getting what they should from their savings. That was a key moment in our thought process to the background to Spring. We had a good savings proposition, we had some really good feedback, we had some very proactive savers already, but we knew there was this massive opportunity, more than £500 billion in current account deposits, just getting little or no interest, and that didn't really move when the alternative to that, i.e. a savings account with an interest rate, began with a 4% or a 5%, and we knew that there was something that needed to be introduced into the market to solve that problem.
So Paragon's a really interesting bank. They're a FTSE 250 listed bank, and they're also a specialist lender in the buy-to-let space. Our journey first started back in 2020, where they chose Mambu for their development finance and savings proposition. And that was foundation of our partnership. That's where the trust and the capability was really established, because over time, Paragon has grown significantly. And you can see that by their savings portfolio, how strong their proposition is right now in the market. And all of that was possible with a reliable, robust core banking engine, which is Mambu. As Paragon grew and started to evolve based on the market needs that they saw, Mambu was the chosen partner for their next step. And that next step was born with a gap that they saw in the market. So we were the foundation for their greenfield transformation, launching a digital product. And that's how Spring was born. We do have a lot of Mambu customers who are using us for their savings and lending proposition. And in order to keep up with the market change and the customers' expectations, we're seeing a lot of our banks actually in parallel launch new digital products. It's no longer just about the savings product that's going out to market, but it's also the product that you're offering that makes it accessible to the end customer.
Paragon's savings proposition, we already had a proposition that was really designed for proactive savers. So we had a big cohort of customers who understand the savings market, manage their savings actively, and we were serving those guys well. That was giving us lots of information about what could be possible if we could just get more people being that little bit more proactive. The key, I think, with Spring was we then We thought there was a problem, then we started asking customers why. Really boiled down to the perceived choice. So customers were sometimes baffled by the choice that our bank or all banks collectively were potentially giving them, and then just the perceived hassle. When we started with Spring, the number one thing was that it has to feel hassle-free, because that, if we knew that if we could get some momentum on that, on the UX side of things, the sort of digital offering stacked up to make sense, that once the ball started rolling it would continue, and pleased to see it has.
Spring is really the cornerstone of our digital transformation. So it's our first direct-to-consumer product. By that we mean we've got digitisation, if you like, front to back. It was a greenfield site. We've got a new brand. We're going into a new segment. We've used a lot of customer insight to inform our new customer journey and the features that we've got now within the app. It's really been key for us in sort of proving that actually we can do something and from the ground up. So working in partnership with Mambu and some of our other suppliers, we've been able to create something and turn it around and get it out the door sort of within a very short period of time. We have done some work previously on our other front-end platforms, so that started to provide us with a little bit of a rhythm about how we can actually do agile change. But really, Spring has been sort of the thing that's really propelled us forward and has really created more confidence in how we can deliver digital transformation.
The secret to scaling isn't necessarily moving fast. It's about getting that foundation right. And so for Paragon, what they wanted was an enterprise composable architecture. To launch something like Spring, for the full proposition, it requires being able to connect to multiple providers and suppliers so they have a full market offering. And as Mambu is API first, they had full confidence that they could rely on Mambu to enable them to seamlessly connect all these components and launch to market. The other part is also in their launch strategy. So our partnership is also very strong. We understood how they wanted to launch and go to market. They took the right steps first by launching with friends and family. They wanted to ensure that the product that they were launching was reliable, scalable, and delivered for the end customer. And you can see that from the Trustpilot scores that they're getting. They're getting really good reviews. I signed up to Spring, so I can vouch for it. We're aware there are so many competitive rates out there, but the overhead of having to sort of then act on it is something maybe not everyone is confident on or knows which one to go for. Whereas here, I've been able to maintain my relationship with an existing bank, but also make the most out of my money.
We already work with Mambu on other parts of the savings infrastructure, so we knew how Mambu worked and we knew the API connectivity and the modular design. So the best contribution from Mambu was just that we just didn't have to think about that bit. So it was the core components of the platform deliver, we knew how they worked, that was fine. And that allowed us to focus on the front end and the user experience. Like I said, we really wanted the proposition to be hassle-free. We had a phased rollout, we had employee pilot for a couple of months, friends and family a couple of months, a phased rollout because the development got to where it needed to be pretty quickly, and then it allowed us to test the proposition, refine it, test the proposition, refine it. So when we launched to the public about a year ago now, we knew that it would land well. When we launched the sort of first savings franchise back in 2014, that was a sort of full stack from day one. We developed a range of products that we knew would suit a range of customer needs, and then the customers come and choose what they want. With Spring, we sort of turned that on the head in that we're trying to present what we think people should choose. They're not choosing it for themselves. We're presenting this as a solution to a problem you might have, whereas Paragon Direct franchise, the customers know the problem and they're choosing us as a solution. So it's a slightly different way of thinking about things. For Paragon Group, the deployment of an agile methodology, working in sprints, and the speed of delivery is certainly something that Spring spearheaded.
So this is a real change in ways of working for Paragon Bank. I think we had definitely done some sort of smaller transformations on the front end in the past couple of years. So I think people had started to get used to the concepts of working in an agile way, concepts such as product ownership, how we would actually sort of run things in that agile iterative way. However, we hadn't done something on this scale before, and this really involved, enterprise functions. So people literally across the business. So what we were then asking of people was to learn this new way of working, get up to speed with new knowledge, apply it, and then quickly move on to the next thing so we could start sort of, if you like, building the features and implementing it. Culturally, it's had a much wider impact than the actual delivery of Spring as a product itself. It's literally changed how we do delivery and transformation within the business. And I think that partnership with someone like Mambu has been so critical in that, because they've helped to provide that reassurance that we're doing things, if you like, in the right way. They've been really, reliable and responsive, and have helped us as well through consultancy to make sure that sort of what we're building actually works as we intended. And I think that that's been, really transformational for us in terms of building our organisational confidence in doing more transformation. So what I see now is when we're looking at, if you like, the new things that we want to do, we're seeing it through the prism of all the changes we made because we actually delivered Spring. A lot of people have been talking about agile ways of working for years and years, but actually really putting it into practice and seeing that success that has been brought to other organisations and being able to actually apply that learning to actually what is quite a traditional institution, and also doing that transformation from within as well. So, other parts of the bank are still operating on more traditional lines, but what we've been able to do is carve out and actually demonstrate and prove, if you like, to all of our stakeholders that actually we can work in a different way. And as I said, I think it's that organisational confidence now that we've got to do it because we've had that experience with our partners.
Real success isn't necessarily like a huge spike in deposits. It's about sustainable growth. At Mambu, it's important that we align to each of our customers' strategy so that we can grow with them and help them evolve their product offering. So at Mambu, we're very much connected to the customer's business, their strategy, understanding how they want to launch, and making sure that we provide that ultra invisible, powerful core banking layer so that they can then obsess with their customers. We do the heavy lifting in the background with our composable API-first architecture, and that enables them to launch to market and scale as the market demands. Paragon are really paving the way with how they've started off with their traditional savings and lending proposition and adapting and evolving to the market needs. Customer demands and market needs are changing very rapidly now. So banks actually need to be able to turn these ideas into a product offering in the market very quickly. So although they need to balance that speed and making sure they get everything right and the foundation right, all our customers know that they can rely on Mambu to be that core banking engine, to be that reliable software that allows them to spin up new propositions to market.
The first milestone was when we chose Mambu to be the core operating system for our deposit aggregators franchise. That is relatively low volume and enabled us to sort of learn and deploy Mambu effectively. We saw Mambu iterate over the years for that. In the background, we were seeing the Spring opportunity, seeing how that developed. It was an obvious choice to use Mambu for Spring as well. And then for Spring, the milestones there were, I would say, when we did the friends and family launch, because employees knew about it, knew about the ethos of the brand, were sort of bought in. But for me personally, when we started telling our friends and family about the product, educating them in the benefits that it could bring, give you real life personal stories back was the key milestone for me, because that's when I got the absolute reassurance that the work we'd done was correct, the customer insight work we'd done was matched expectations of people I personally knew, and it really brought it all to life at the end there.
I think it gives us more options because of the API-led composable architecture. It means that we've got choices in terms of what we can actually use when we are then, if you like, building enhancements to the products that we already have, but also when we're considering what we're doing in terms of moving into other adjacencies and other product areas. I suppose the key benefit there is the speed to market. It's not getting tied into, the old days where you had sort of key monolithic vendors that you sort of had to stick around with. And I think it's the agility in that, and it's the choices and options that I think are so important, because that actually means that you can build that case for, your key stakeholders and your board and give them confidence that you can actually deliver against that. I mean, for us, it's a sort of like 40 years worth of architecture that's been in place. And as you will know, in any organisation, around that you build up numerous processes, ways of working, custom and practice. So from a transformation point of view, although the technology is at the heart of that, and that architecture is so key, for someone in my role, it's actually unpicking all of those other, if you like, layers and elements, so that we can make sure that actually what we build is also, it's accepted by the business and it's sustainable, and actually people are engaged and are bought into that. And I think that transformation from within journey is definitely what we've been on. It's actually about building a new strategic capability for the bank. And by that I mean we have got people now with skills and experience that we certainly didn't have sort of 18 months, 2 years ago when we started this journey. And that has now become the new norm. So expectations are now starting to get higher, because actually it's those capabilities that are the ones that are seen to be able to push us forward.
At Mambu, we obsess about our customers. We're plugged in so many different ways. We understand our customer, we understand the market, and we understand our proposition. And we bring all those things together to make sure that each customer has the right level of support that they need to launch whatever product they need to market, whether that's a brownfield transformation where they're slowly migrating off legacy systems, or a greenfield transformation like Paragon where they're spinning up a new product. We know exactly how to support them. And Mambu ourselves are continuing to evolve and grow. We started with savings and lending as our proposition, and we've grown to support payments. So we are continuously evolving our roadmap as we see the market needs changing, and that's very powerful for our customers. They know that we can support the full business lifecycle in core banking end to end.
To recognise the distinctive customer cohorts beneath the surface. So if you look at the UK household savings market, it is absolutely massive. There's a lot of depositors there, but the drivers for their behaviour can be quite polarised at times. So where we've positioned Paragon is we've got 3 franchises. So we've got the deposit aggregators, the partnerships that hosted on Mambu. We've got our more traditional proactive saver offering through Paragon brand, and then we've got the Spring brand where maybe slightly younger group, digital first, and we're trying to cover more bases by having propositions that are tailored for different audiences, and we'll continue with that. For Spring in particular, it's less than a year old, and the size of the opportunity is huge. The key really is more awareness, and we'll start that by using our existing customers. We're seeing an advocacy build, so we can hopefully roll that into growth in the sort of next year, and then we'll look at product developments, increased use of the existing functionality. Spring already links to your current account in real time, so you can really optimize your cash flow personally, and a lot of customers do that. We'd like to see more use of functionality. So just to summarize, more awareness, increased use of the existing functionality, and then gradually extend out the functionality and the product range. The audience for Spring starts demanding more. You imagine these customers have left their savings in a current account that they shouldn't have done for a long time. So they've took their first step to Spring, they've realised actually it's pretty easy, they're starting a journey, and we want to add to that and be there for them as they take those future steps.
I mean, we were sort of early adopters of Mambu, and I think we started the relationship early there. And I think that trust has grown, and also obviously both organisations have grown over that time as well. Having that line of sight also on Mambu's roadmap, what they're developing, actually having that feedback, if you like, from other clients that we can actually sort of understand, oh yes, actually that's something would also work for us. That's actually been really, again, confidence inspiring. And when I talk about confidence, I mean that, because we need that confidence in order to get the investment and the funding to make these changes in the first place. So if we have a really reliable, proven partner like we do in Mambu, then people are more ready to accept that actually that's the right route for the change. And so, we're really excited because we've got a few other things up our sleeve that we want to make changes to, and we're really confident that Mambu are going to be our partner on that continuing journey.